California Institute of Technology, which had at that time 30 Nobel laureates of the faculty, 30, in various fields, chemistry, physics, mathematics, biology, in various fields. And in the biology division, there were 2 Nobel laureates teaching us. It was a very exciting time because genetic code was about to be decoded at that time. And many Nobel Prizes followed the decoding of the genetic code. So just before that. And we were told that here is a professor called Max Delbruck, someone told me about it, whose 5 students have gotten Nobel Prizes. But he does not have a Nobel Prize. But 5 students have gotten Nobel Prizes. So I found out where is his official room, where he sits every day. I went there. He looked at me. He said, "Who are you?" I told my name. He said, "Come, sit down next to me." And what research program, what PhD program you started? I told him. He said, "Look, what you are doing is very important, but you have to think a little faster because the world is moving very fast. And look at my students; they have learned more than I know now. They have gone ahead of me." So very, very humble. And I remember when in my PhD program, I was doing some research which was not making much sense to me, and I was questioning my PhD guide's own hypothesis, questioning his hypothesis, and he was very upset because I was questioning his hypothesis. But I collected a lot of data, so in one seminar which I had to give as a PhD student, I was giving the seminar and questioning my professor, my guide's hypothesis on that particular issue. And he was getting very upset because questioning him. And but this Max Delbruck sitting there and listening to me, and suddenly raised his finger and said, "I think," he addressed my professor and said, "I think what your student Anil is saying is making a lot of sense. Look, don't brush him off. He's making some sense. I think he's right when he says there's a flaw in your hypothesis. It's not totally wrong." It's an open discussion going on in a university. Nobody is stopping me because I'm such a junior student, just a new PhD student. Here's my professor who was advisor biology of President of the United States. And I'm questioning his hypothesis. Here I think I would have been turned out of the institution. But there, nobody would say. It's an open discussion. This is the atmosphere of learning, where everybody is learning. And when you accept learning as the basic paradigm, it's a paradigm of not only learning, it's a paradigm of creativity. It's a paradigm of exploration by everyone, by students, by the teachers. Everyone is exploring new knowledge. And together they explore even better when they join together with respect for each other. Teachers respecting children and children respecting the teacher. There is a kind of a fraternal relationship between the two, not of hierarchy. That since teacher is the source of all knowledge, the teacher will have a hegemony over children. He can suppress children's questions, children's ways of thinking, children's ideas, children's excitement. Here, teachers and children are together on the same platform without any hierarchy. So hierarchy and hegemony is the enemy of education. Mark my words, the more you think about it, more sense it will make. Hierarchy amongst the teachers and the children and hegemony of the teacher's knowledge on children is really a very dangerous situation, dangerous framework of education. I remember that in Delhi University there was a course on history of science, and there was a chemistry teacher who was assigned the duty of teaching us history of science. And he was teaching us about how the knowledge of medicinal plant had come from Europe. He gave references of European countries and European professors of 18th century, 19th century, talking about medicinal plants. And he said they had so much of knowledge. So at that time, in the library, I was a regular visitor of the library, I had read about the contribution of Charak and Sushruta in classifying medicinal plants then found in Indian subcontinent. And it was a very detailed book on what Charak and Sushruta had contributed. So in the class of this teacher, I raised my hand and said, "Sir, there was also some work done in India several centuries ago, classifying the medicinal plants found today in India. He said this is out of course. See, this is what Gandhi understood. The course and textbooks limit you. If somebody has decided a course and somebody written their textbook to fulfill the requirement of the course, they have bound you those limits. The idea of education is to liberate you from all limitations, to take you to a higher stage of learning and perception and understanding, to liberate you. And this is what Gandhi said, education is for freedom of thought, not to bind you, but to freedom of thought. To me, these things with Gandhi's references to these ideas became very important. To my own entire life, continue to be important to date. But as all of us, you have the probably the maybe not, but in my stage of learning, memorization of knowledge was a key of education. Memorization. You must memorize everything. So when I entered Indian Agricultural Research Institute for my MSc work, after leaving Delhi University, to do my MSc in plant physiology and genetics and biochemistry, in these subjects, I remember a very mature and well-known professor of chemistry who was teaching us about sugar. Not the sugar which we eat and you eat, that sugar is one kind of sugar. There are many kinds of sugars. There are not less than 25 kinds of sugars with different chemistry, different properties. So he was teaching on the blackboard, drawing all the formulas of the 25 types of sugar. He said, I'm going to test you tomorrow, whether you understood it or not. So, trained in memorization, I had a picture of all the diagrams made by him on the blackboard. The picture set in my mind. So that was my training. Next day, when he asked a question, immediately I answered because it was all memorized in my mind. It was a photograph in my mind. With this, I went to United States, to California Institute of Technology. That was a great achievement, and I could memorize, or I can look at a picture and everything will be in my mind. That was my training. So it's a very interesting story. There was a chemistry teacher and a very well-known chemist of the times, and he said there used to be weekly tests. So on the weekend, on Friday, he said there's a weekly test. You go to the library and read any one research paper on chemistry, any paper, the library is full of it, any one which you like, which you people like, choose a paper, read it, and next day when you come on Monday or Tuesday, I will ask you to summarize the main ideas of that paper. That's all. That is a test. So the students there understood what he meant, but for me this was a new kind of assignment. So I went to the library and looked at many big volumes of published papers there. Then I found one paper which I thought was interesting, and I looked at it for 8 or 9 pages of printed paper with lots of references, more than 60-70 references at the end. I looked at it carefully, many diagrams, lot of data, tabulated data. I looked at all that. You know, the whole thing became a photographic memory in my mind. All the tables, tabulated data, the references, detailed references, where it was published, which year it was published, the page numbers, all became part of my memory. So when on Monday, this professor said, write a summary of the paper, I wrote the whole paper. But I could not understand the paper. I just, so all the others students finished the whole thing in 10 minutes and went away. I was the only one left over. With great difficulty, I finished it and gave it to him. So he wrote a very interesting comment on the margin of my last page of that notebook, my examination book, the test book. He wrote, I've never forgotten that, he wrote it with red pen. He said, I'm giving you 48 out of 50. But I know that you have not understood the paper. You seem to have a photographic memory. You reproduce the whole paper. I'm amazed, I admire you, but you have not understood the paper. That was a great lesson for me in my life. I stopped doing that after that. So I had to undo the method which was ingrained in my mind from my own country. I had to undo it, and I could reach higher levels there. These are examples from science. I'll take one very interesting example from social science. I had Gandhian follower who was practicing Nahi Talim in Gujarat, in southern Gujarat, the district of Surat district and the surrounding tribal area. He was practicing Nahi Talim in schools there. And we became friends. He was a senior to me many years. He must be 94 years, I'm 82 years, much older to me at that time. I'm talking early 1970s, and he was educating me on the meaning of Nahi Talim and what Gandhi was talking about. So I respected him a lot. And later on, when I became Dean Education Delhi University, I invited him to give a talk on Nahi Talim. He came, his name is Jyotibhai Desai. He gave that talk, which is now produced as a small booklet. It's very interesting what he talked about. In Delhi University Education Department, he said that we wanted our students in that small school in a remote tribal quarter of a tribal region of southern Gujarat. We wanted the students who understand social science, understand sociology, understand social relations particularly, understand what is history. So we devised a project. The project was, at that time, large number of dacoits in northern part of Madhya Pradesh, known as Morena region. There were lots of dacoits. They had sort of surrendered before another Gandhian of Madhya Pradesh, surrendered. And they surrendered on a condition that they will not be put in jails again. They were dacoits, and very criminal kind of dacoits. They were given near Jabalpur city, a whole area, rural area was taken where it was an open prison. It was experiment, Gandhian experiment, open prison, and they were living there. Jyotibhai Desai took his students from Gujarat to spend 2 weeks with the dacoits. That included girls and boys. And the project was that every student, girl or boy, will be assigned to one dacoit to record the history of that dacoit, his experience, his reasons for becoming a dacoit, and what he did or did not, and what are his expectations after he is released from this open prison. And girls had freedom to go to a dacoit and sit next to him until midnight and take notes. And so did the boys also, same freedom. And the dacoits narrated their life experiences. Really recorded. Many students actually broke down and cried because their life stories were so touching, and they all recorded, and then they were analyzed. And sometimes the girls used to be a little bit frightened of sitting next to a dacoit at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. taking notes. And dacoit said, "Look, you are like my grandchild. Don't worry. Just take your notes. Your teacher Jyotibhai has said, we have to respect you, we respect you. Take your notes and ask any number of questions." At the end of it, when put together, all those narratives became a very powerful instrument of history and sociology of a region which is a dacoit-dominated region. Was at that time, even now, it is not totally ended. And learning about dacoits' own life history, analyzing it, and then a whole session took place on the last day. What have we learned? This is Nahi Talim. That is Nahi Talim. That's a way of learning, facing the reality, social reality directly, instead of reading in the books. Jyotibhai Desai is a great teacher in this respect, very creative teacher, now 94 years old. He's still reading and writing a lot. He's not stopped doing that. He used to tell me, "Sari zindagi bhar seekhte rehna." That is a lesson of Gandhi. Sari zindagi bhar seekhte rehna. Seekhna band kiya to mar gaya. This is seekhna band. When you stop learning, you are dead. These are the very important lessons I'm sharing with you. And when you talk of learning paradigm, it's a learning paradigm, and which is linked with liberation paradigm. The children who come there, students who come to you for learning paradigm, they come with multiple ways of learning, multiple styles of learning, not one. Each child has her or his own style of learning, own method of learning, own pace of learning. Learning paces are different. You cannot have a uniform pace and uniform method of learning. Multiple ways of learning and multiple paces of learning. If children are not given the freedom to choose their own pace, their own style of learning, then you are destroying their capacity to learn, you are destroying their capacity to acquire knowledge and construct knowledge. both acquire and custom. In the process, in this learning paradigm, in the process of acquiring knowledge, children also start transforming knowledge and creating new knowledge. Very important. They are not only acquiring, they are also transforming and creating, because there is a very rich interaction between the students and the teacher and amongst the students also. They are learning from each other. And it is capacity to learn from each other that is the crux of education. If you are not learning from each other, only learning from textbooks, then you are not learning.